Hello, I'm now going to continue my read through of my book, The Baha'i Faith, A Short History. We've now reached chapter 10 on the Universal House of Justice. As before, I'm going to split this chapter into two separate videos for ease of recording. As this book was first written, published in 1996, there's obviously a lot that's happened since then, and a slightly more up-to-date account is in the relevant section of my Cambridge introduction. So, this chapter consists of the following elements. We'll just do the first four here about the formation and status of the House of Justice, the writings, compilations and translations, administration and systematic planning, and then go on to the others in the second video. The Universal House of Justice was first elected in April 1963, and ever since has acted as the supreme administrative body in the Baha'i world. One of its earliest pronouncements, in October 1963, was that there was no way in which any future guardians could be appointed in succession to Sheikh Effendi, and it has thus also assumed permanent headship of the faith. The absence of a guardian represented what it described as a grievous loss, but the continued unity and guidance of the faith under the direction of the House of Justice is regarded as being divinely assured. The system used to elect the Universal House of Justice was established by Abdul Baha, namely by the collected votes of the members of all existing National Spiritual Assemblies, 56 in 1963, 165 in 1993. Other aspects of the House's functioning have been determined by the House itself and confirmed in its adopted constitution, dated 26th of November 1972. Thus, there are at present 9 members. Elections are held every 5 years at an international convention of National Assembly members, to date all held in Haifa, and the House has no officers, but otherwise conducts its affairs much as the spiritual assemblies do. In keeping with the instruction of Abdul Baha, and in contrast to all other present Baha'i bodies, the membership is confined to men. Although greatly respected, the members of the House do not have any special status or authority within the faith as individuals. It is as a collectivity that the House exercises its leadership. To date, a total of 16 men have served as members of the House. The membership has been highly stable, the only changes of membership having occurred as a result of death or retirement. Of the original 9 members elected in 1963, 3 still serve. By national origins, 5 of the members have been Iranians from outside Iran, 8 have been North Americans, 2 British, and 1 Australian of Indian parentage. The members clearly cultivate an ethos of individual self-effacement. There have been no significant challenges to the leadership of the House, and while some of the Remiite groups remain active, covenant breaking has been quiescent during the 30 years since its election. These are the 9 men who were elected to the first House of Justice in 1963. Now, writings, compilations and translations. The Universal House of Justice is empowered to legislate on matters not revealed in the Baha'i scriptures. Up to the present time, however, it has been extremely limited in its exercise of this function. Instead, it has preferred to provide directive guidance to the Baha'is in its role as head of the faith, and to collect and publish a large mass of extracts from the writings of Baha'u'llah, the Bab, Abdul Baha and Sheikh Effendi. As with Sheikh Effendi, the House's guidance has taken the form of letters to Baha'i communities, institutions and individuals, and sometimes to the entire Baha'i world. 3 volumes of these letters have been published so far, and many more are found in Baha'i periodicals. The letters are regarded as divinely empowered. Compilations of Baha'i writings on a wide range of subjects have been produced, including various aspects of Baha'i administration, teaching, prayer, music, education, and family life. Translations of the writings by Baha'u'llah, the Bab, and Abdul Baha have also been commissioned, including most recently Baha'u'llah's Book of Laws, the Kitab al-Aqdas, in 1992. In addition to its messages addressed to the Baha'is, the House has also published its own constitution in 1972, prepared a volume of Baha'u'llah's letters to the kings for presentation to contemporary heads of state in 1967, and issued a call to the peoples of the world to respond to the Baha'i teachings on the establishment of universal peace in 1985. This work has necessitated the establishment of research and archival departments in Haifa. Of the letters of Baha'u'llah, Abdul Baha and Shawqi Effendi, over 60,000 items had already been collected by 1983. An extensive program of preservation, classification, and indexing is still in progress. These collected writings give the House a massive amount of data on which to base its deliberations, and an ever-increasing body of published scripture and authoritative interpretation for all Baha'is. Now turning to administration, the major developments in Baha'i administration since 1963 concern the institutions of the learned and the Baha'i World Center in Haifa. Baha'u'llah had referred to the rulers and the learned, these are technical terms in the faith, terms which have come to refer respectively to the elected assemblies and the hands of the cause and their assistants. In the absence of a living guardian, the House of Justice ruled in November 1964 that there was no longer a way to appoint further hands. Therefore, in order for the hand's vital functions of fostering the expansion of the faith and protecting it from the attacks of its opponents to be continued into the future, the House created new institutions. Continental Boards of Councillors, established in 1968, now with 72 members on 5 boards. I remind you, all of the statistics in this chapter date from when I wrote the book in the 1990s, and who would take over the work of the hands on a continental basis, including the direction of the auxiliary boards, and an international teaching centre in Haifa, established in 1973, to direct the continental and auxiliary boards, and on which the remaining hands would also serve. The number of auxiliary board members was also greatly increased, from 72 in 1957 to 846 in 1992, and they were empowered to appoint their own assistants to help them with their work. The House has also greatly expanded the staff at the Baha'i World Center, responding both to the increasing extent of the Baha'i community globally and the increasing range of work which the House directs or initiates. Thus, in addition to its secretariat, financial and maintenance departments, the latter for the Baha'i shrines, gardens and other buildings, it has created a public information office, an office of social and economic development, and various other agencies. Instead of the handful of staff employed under Shawqi Effendi, there are now several hundred. Systematic planning. Shawqi Effendi established a framework of systematic planning to achieve stated objectives, and this has been continued and developed by the Universal House of Justice. To date, there have been 5 international plans launched by the House: the 9-year, 5-year, 7-year, 6-year, and 3-year plans. In general format, these have resembled Shawqi Effendi's 10-year crusade, albeit with a wider range of goals. A subsidiary 2-year plan from 1990 to 92 coordinated Baha'i activity in Eastern Europe and the former Soviet Union under the new conditions of religious freedom that followed the collapse of the communist regimes there. Plan objectives have included worldwide expansion and consolidation goals, which by 1995 involved 174 national spiritual assemblies in the detailed process of preparation. The results of these endeavours have been impressive. Between 1963 and 1992, the total number of localities in the world in which Baha'is resided increased from 14,000 to over 120,000, whilst the number of local spiritual assemblies increased from 4,437 to 20,435. There has also been an enormous increase in the number of languages into which Baha'i literature has been translated, in excess of 800 languages by 1988, and the continued acquisition or construction of national and local Baha'i centres. There's a table of statistics in the book here, which obviously I'm not going to read out. Of particular significance in terms of buildings has been the construction of more Baha'i houses of worship. In 1963, there were only 3, Wilmette, Kampala and Sydney, but these have since been augmented by temples in Frankfurt, Germany in 1964, Panama City in 1972, Apia, Western Samoa in 1984, and New Delhi in India in 1986. Often reflecting indigenous architectural styles, these buildings have served as silent teachers of the faith, the New Delhi temple in particular attracting thousands of visitors every day. Of the 3 houses of worship that existed prior to the election of the Universal House of Justice, one was at Wilmette in Illinois, and then the 2 more recent ones were in Kampala and Sydney. Of the houses of worship built since the election of the House of Justice, you have one in Frankfurt in Germany, one in Panama, and then one in Samoa, and one in New Delhi. To achieve the goals of expansion and consolidation, the Universal House of Justice has sought to extend both the processes of planning and the available resources. Thus, all local as well as national assemblies are now encouraged to develop their own goals as part of their respective national plans. Neighbouring national communities have also been encouraged to develop joint projects, as for example teaching along their borders, and many national assemblies have been assigned specific collaboration goals with, for example, a richer community funding a capital project in a poorer one, so that a web of interconnections between Baha'i communities has been created. A multitude of Baha'i pioneers and travel teachers have settled in or visited other countries to help establish or deepen new Baha'i communities, and increasing emphasis has been placed on tapping the energies and time of young Baha'is in their teens and 20s, whose endeavours have contributed markedly to the rapid growth of Baha'i communities worldwide. One aspect of expansion that has assumed major importance is the attempt to proclaim the Baha'i teachings to the generality of the world's population. This has involved establishing contacts with prominent people and the media, and also grassroots campaigns of mass teaching. That's a piece of Baha'i terminology. In some countries, such teaching has been remarkably successful, and large numbers of new Baha'is, including many poorly educated villagers in what we now call the Global South, have entered the faith. Considerable attention has been given to ways in which these believers can be properly integrated into the Baha'i community, such as by creating village teaching institutes, and particularly in Latin America, by broadcasts from Baha'i radio stations. In addition to these essentially quantitative goals, Universal House has also sought to develop qualitative aspects of Baha'i community life, including enhancing the role of women, fostering Baha'i family life, education and literacy, and increasing the administrative efficiency of assemblies and committees. It has aimed to increase the sense of global community among Baha'is by holding large-scale international Baha'i conferences in various parts of the world. Notable among these were two World Congresses, the first in London, organised by the Hands of the Cause, but held just after the election of the House in 1963, and the second attended by around 27,000 people from 180 countries in New York in 1992. So many thanks for listening, and particular thanks to my patrons Ian Palin and Tricia Williams. You're welcome to support my channel if you want to. If you like these videos, please subscribe to the channel. I'll try to answer any questions you may have about the video on Patreon, or perhaps in a future video. If you want to support the development of the channel, you can do so through Patreon or PayPal. Have a good day.